If you've been applying for job after job and hearing absolutely nothing back, I want you to stop for a moment before sending another application because there is a possibility that the problem is not the number of jobs you're applying for. The problem might be that you're applying for jobs that you are simply not prepared for yet. And I know that sounds harsh, but stay with me because I'm not saying that you're not capable of getting a good job. I'm saying that there's a difference between wanting a job and being ready to compete for it. And once you understand that difference, your entire approach to finding work can change. Let me make something clear before we go any further. I'm not telling you that you need 10 years of experience before you're allowed to apply for a position. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to meet every single requirement on a job description. And you certainly do not need to become some perfect candidate before you ever send an application. Job descriptions often describe an ideal candidate, and very few people will match every requirement. But there is a difference between being slightly underqualified and being completely unprepared, and that difference matters. Imagine that you find a remote customer service position. The salary looks good, the company looks interesting, the job allows you to work from home. You think to yourself, this is exactly what I want. So you apply. Then you apply to another one, and another, and another. But before long, you've sent 20 applications and you've received almost nothing. At that point, you might start thinking, well, nobody wants to hire me. But perhaps we should be asking a different question. What are the employers actually looking for? Maybe they want someone who can use customer service software. Maybe they expect strong written communication. Maybe they want someone who knows how to manage customer complaints. Maybe they want someone who can work independently. Maybe they expect familiarity with certain digital tools. And look at yourself honestly. How many of those skills do you actually have? How many have you simply assumed you could learn after getting hired? That is where the strategy changes. Instead of starting with, I need a job, start with, I want this type of job. What does someone need to be good at to succeed in it? That is a much better question. Find 5 or 10 job advertisements for the kind of position you want. Do not just look at the job title, look for the patterns. What skills keep appearing? What software keeps appearing? What responsibilities keep appearing? What qualifications are repeatedly mentioned? What personal qualities seem important? You are essentially then reverse engineering the job. You're finding out what the market is asking for, then you can compare that with what you currently have, and that comparison is incredibly useful because now you have a roadmap. Let us say you discover that most of the jobs you want require strong Excel skills. You currently know the basics. That is not a reason to give up. That is information. You now know what to work on. Maybe the jobs require customer relationship management software. Learn it. Maybe they require better written communication. Practice it. Maybe they want experience with project management tools. Start using them. Maybe they want people who can analyze information. Develop that skill. And this is where I want you to change the way you think about preparation. You're not wasting time because you are not currently employed in that role. You are preparing yourself for the role that you want. There's one trap I want you to avoid. You might hear me say, develop your skills, and immediately you go and buy 5 courses. Please do not do that. We already talked about this. Learning is useful, but learning without application can become another form of procrastination. So if you want to improve your customer service skills, practice handling realistic customer situations. If you're learning spreadsheets, build something with them. If you're learning project management, organize a real project. If you're learning communication, practice writing professional emails. If you're learning AI tools, use them to solve actual problems and then check the results carefully. Give yourself evidence. Don't just say, I completed a course. Be able to say, here's what I learned and here's what I can do now with it. That is so much stronger. Your CV or your resume should not simply be a list of things that you've done. It should actually help an employer understand what you can contribute. So instead of simply saying, I completed an online course in customer service, think about what you can demonstrate. Perhaps you created a mock customer service workflow. Perhaps you practiced handling difficult customer scenarios. Perhaps you learned a particular software problem. Perhaps you built a small portfolio of examples. Now your CV or resume has more substance behind it. You're not just saying, I'm interested in this career. You're actually showing, you're demonstrating, I have been preparing for this career. That is actually a much more compelling story. There's another benefit that people do not talk about enough. Preparation changes the way you walk into an opportunity. When you've spent months developing relevant skills, practicing and building examples of your work, you approach an interview differently. You've got things that you can actually talk about. You've got experiences that you can draw from. You've got questions to ask. You have examples that you can demonstrate. You're not sitting there hoping the employer will somehow discover your potential. You can actually explain it. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the job. Nothing can guarantee that. But at least you've given yourself a much stronger foundation. Now, this is the part I really want you to remember. If you've applied for 50 jobs and you've received no response, applying for another 50 in exactly the same way may not solve the problem. Sometimes you need to stop and diagnose the situation. Ask yourself, am I applying for jobs that match my current capabilities? What skills are employers repeatedly asking for? Where are my biggest gaps? What can I do over the next 30 days to improve those gaps? What evidence can I build that demonstrates what I can actually do? That is a strategy, and strategy is much more powerful than simply pressing apply over and over again. Now, I want to make sure that you hear this correctly. If you discover that you're missing several skills, do not tell yourself, I'm not good enough. Tell yourself, now I know what I need to work on. There's a huge difference between those two statements. One creates shame, the other creates a plan. And that's what I want for you. I want you to look at your career as something you can actively build. You might not have the perfect qualifications today. You might not have the experience you want yet. You might not even know exactly where you're going. That is okay, but you can identify the direction. You can identify the skills. You can start building and you can keep moving. So, what is the digital hustle takeaway? Let us give it one last squeeze. Stop measuring your job search by how many applications you send. Start measuring it by how much more capable you are becoming. Find the job that you want. Study what employers are asking for. Identify your gaps. Build those skills. Create evidence. Then apply with something valuable to offer. Because the goal is not simply just to find a job. The goal is to become someone who is ready when the right opportunity appears. And remember, you do not have to become perfect before you move forward. You just need to keep becoming more prepared. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you find this useful. And if there's anything that you want to share, please do share it in the comment section below. You might be able to help somebody else as well. Learn, earn, grow, live your freedom. I will definitely see you in the next one.